Kara Shalom, welcome to our watercolor journey. In today's picture we are going to look a little bit at the contrast, light and dark, and how to use different blues to give you depth in the sky, and also how to preserve the white so that you have a lot of light in your picture. The materials used are listed in the description below. We are also going to use a cut-up store card and a spray bottle. So we're working flat on the table, and we are working wet on dry, starting with French Ultramarine and broad brush strokes, leaving as much of the white as possible. Adding a little bit of Cobalt and then Cerulean to give you the different colors in the sky. Add a touch of the mix of French Ultramarine and transparent Sienna to give a few dark clouds in the sky. And then your sky should be basically done. Remember that your sky is usually darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. Then to start with our foreground, we are going to look at it today from a different angle. We're going to paint it as if it's a valley. So you start from the top on the left and bring your brush strokes down to the middle, and then top on the right, and do the same thing so that it forms diagonal lines. Keep your brush strokes broad in the beginning, and then just add a few colors like the Sepia or the raw Sienna in little bits. You can use Cobalt or Cerulean rather, and raw Sienna to mix for the greens. Now you're going to use the different blues together with the raw Sienna to make different kinds of green. You need colder greens and you need warmer greens. The colder greens are for the further background, and the warmer greens will be for the closer foreground that we get. The warmer colors, like the transparent Sienna, will come more to the front so that it will help you to create depth in your painting. Because we want to preserve the look of a valley, we keep making diagonal strokes when we are in the foreground. Once your background is done, let your painting dry. Now you can use a thinner brush and keep mixing the blues with the raw Sienna so that you can have your different greens. Cold green here at the back, and now you are going to build the second layer of the tree line at the back. Nothing definitive because it's far in the distance. And you can use some Sepia or some of the mixture of French Ultramarine and transparent Sienna to give you the darker shadows that you need to give you the depth. You can add any of the blues to your trees at the back as well, because it will bring harmony between the sky and your foreground. You will keep using the blues in the very near foreground as well. So build the tree line a little bit. Little dots and dashes, again nothing definitive. We are not going to put any real detail in here. It's just to add some elements to the terrain to make the terrain more interesting. Dabbing in the raw Sienna or the transparent Sienna is always a good idea because it brings warmth and a little bit more dimension to the elements that you have. You can use a brush with a fine tip to help you create the grass stalks and also to create thinner lines. In this case, Heinrich used the Rosemary Company Extended Point Series 46. It has a rather fat belly but a long tip, and that helps to hold the paint but also to give you these very thin distinctive lines. Add a few shadows so that it doesn't look like your elements are floating around, and it grounds them and it makes it more natural and more realistic. You can also use the belly of the brush to make some of your marks. Here on the left we have a little bit of a bush, very, very generic, nothing distinctive, adding a little bit of blue there for a shadow. And this bush shouldn't be too much because it is not the focal point of the painting. You want to keep building the background there, so you are going to add some more shadows to the tree line at the back with the darker colors. You will notice that the brush is seldom rinsed, because when you pick up the colors from the palette with colors already on the brush, you can get quite a variety of different greens and browns to help make your landscape more natural. So don't always rinse the brush. When you want to start with a fresh color like we do here with a tree, then you want to rinse it so that you can have a pure color. Add a little bit of the darker color to make a shadow, and you are going to make a skeleton of the tree for now. It will be built up later again. So draw your branches from the base up and press harder at the bottom, and then as you go up you lift the brush so that it's only the tip that's working, and in that way you can have your branches thinning out at the top. A tree is never just one solid color, so that's why we add here the transparent sienna, a little bit of the sepia, and even here and there some of the raw sienna, so that there's variation in the branches. And some branches are thicker, some are thinner, so that your tree looks more natural. Now you can rinse the brush and then take a little bit of the mixture, the French Ultramarine and Sienna mixture, and then use the belly of the brush to make clumps of leaves that are at the ends of your branches. The paint will flow, the paint will mix, it's not a problem. It does make it look more natural. Your leaves are not distinctive, they're just an illusion of some leaves growing in the tree. And this is more of an autumn scene, so that's why we have a lot of transparent sienna in there as well. And the warmth of the sienna makes your tree look more three-dimensional against the coolness of the French ultramarine mix. Adding some more sienna to the front, transparent sienna, helps to give the depth in your painting, because the warm colors come to the front and the cooler colors recede. Now we're going to use the store card to draw in some light into the elements that we've painted. You don't have to overdo it, just use the corner and spread out some of the paint. Don't press too hard though. The marks that you make here are permanent, so if you press too hard you might damage the paper, but use it to bring in some light by pushing the paint to one side. The next thing we do is to splatter some of the paint in, and this gives texture to your foreground. Now you can leave it like that to make it look like little rocks, or you can use the spray bottle and spray onto the dots, and that is going to diffuse the paint a little bit and let it flow, and that again gives you a different variety of texture in your painting. You can now let it dry again. Now we are going to enhance the tree a little bit, and by adding some shadows and a few more branches. And here you can be a little bit more precise, because you want to have a bit more detail in this tree because it is the focal point. use the gaps that you have there and the clumps of leaves that you've made in the previous attempt to guide you on where your branches should go. It should be random, but it should still make sense wherever you put your branches and your little twigs. By letting your twigs at the top go into the white that was left there in the sky, it helps to give the distance, because the twigs stand out, the dark twigs stand out against the white of the paper. So it immediately gives you the idea of the distant clouds with the tree that's closer to the viewer. Add a few shadows, because your first layer is fairly flat. So when you add the few shadows there, it will give it more dimension. And there you have it, your beautiful little landscape, quite easy. Please like and subscribe, and please comment if you have done this painting and tell us what you think of it. Thank you for watching. Vaya con Dios.